It's a pleasure to be here today. Want to take a moment and introduce you to Velocity and to our guest speaker here today, David Eckert from Change Healthcare. For those of you that aren't familiar with Velocity, let me give you a little update on Velocity Technology Solutions. We're a premier consulting partner of AWS. We have an SAP and Oracle competency, as well as a managed service provider competency. We've been in the SAP space for 15 years, and since our entire time, we help organizations get the most value out of their ERP applications and complex workloads. Just about every week, we bring customers live with complex workloads like SAP and Oracle and Infor live on the AWS platform, and we're very proud of that. We have a tremendous amount of scale and application expertise. And that scale, with about 425 customers that we work with, gives us tremendous amount of insight into organizations that have a great vision and are able to execute that vision. And so today we're excited to have David Eckert, Senior Vice President at Change Healthcare, with us to talk about their journey to the cloud and to AWS. Before David gets into this realistic view of what it took and the best practices of getting there, I just want to mention some of the results that were delivered from the project. And you'll get an idea of the complexity that was involved that David and our teams managed. So over 185 servers migrated from on-premise to AWS on time, delivering a higher level of performance and a reduced risk at an overall reduced total cost to ownership. This has allowed Change Healthcare to start to innovate and develop and do more with the AWS solutions that they have already and the ones that we've taken there and migrated for them. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Mr. David Eckert of Change Healthcare.
Thank you, Chance. Thanks everybody. So David Eckert, I'm responsible for the corporate applications, the corporate systems at Change Healthcare. Change Healthcare is one of the largest healthcare technology companies out there. Our goal is to envision a better healthcare company. We do a lot of software in the payment revenue cycle. We've got a lot of solutions around cardiology and radiology, kiosks, and we also have a huge data repository, which is accessible through APIs available on AWS, from the AWS marketplace. About 15,000 associates. And you'll see we really touch everybody, payers, providers, and the consumers of health services. You'll see about 14 billion transactions a year, so high volume, and we're very excited about a growth opportunity in this space. To talk a little bit about our project, in March of 2017, we merged with McKesson Technology Services, MTS. And in that, we had a couple things that we had to deliver. We had a 2-year TSA exit criteria, so transition services agreement for 2 years. So we had to be off of their systems in February 2019. As we went forward, we realized that our existing Oracle implementation had a lot of technical debt, had a lot of gaps in the chart of accounts, and it was really holding us back from a lot of the acquisition speed that a cleaner chart of accounts would give us. So like maybe crazy people, we decided to do two ERP implementations at once. And so we started with a greenfield Oracle implementation. We called it OES, Oracle End State. And at the same time, there was a lot of very significant and complex technology functions in the McKesson SAP solution that we did not have time to migrate out. So we agreed to basically catch a copy of that system, catch the clone. And then along with that, a very, very complex solution with 43 different satellite applications that we had to implement and integrate throughout this process. Those satellites are things like Vertex tax solutions, right? So all of our tax rates and all of the processing, credit card tokenization, credit card processing, all of the bank integrations. We had to basically rebuild all of our middleware because we were not inheriting that from McKesson. So we rebuilt all that middleware for AP positive pay files, AR revenue collection, and lockbox. So essentially, the point I want to get across here is there were 3 work streams. And with those 3 work streams, we needed to get the right focus on those to get those done. But again, our goal was to deliver an Oracle end state, bringing functionality from SAP into Oracle as we went along. To keep us on track with that, we set 4 guiding principles. Those guiding principles were, we got to run the business, right? In this transition services time, we can't afford to make a mistake. We have to support our customers. We have to support our business. We have to hit that TSA exit window. Again, 24 months from when the deal was signed. Throughout this, we were positioning to be ready to become a public company. So we had to have public company readiness. We were successful there. We became a public company in June of this year. And then along the way, wherever we had the opportunity to transform, we wanted to make sure we took that opportunity. And so whenever questions came out of, hey, we've got an issue or we've got some different scope, we would go back to these guiding principles to ensure that we stayed on track and hit what we had to. This slide is sort of the change management slide. So while this is a huge technology project, it's also a change management program. We had to bring our business along. We had to bring the financial teams, the HR teams as part of this. So we had to create this vision. We had to sell this vision. And then we had to build the teams to support those different workflows that I talked about. We got curveballs along the way, what you do with every project. So we needed to make sure that team was flexible and could ultimately react to those changes effectively and then continue to deliver. Any big project like this, it's easy for technologists to go heads down and not do something that they need to do for the end state. So how do we make sure we're getting our artifacts? Again, public company readiness. How do we make sure that we're not skimping testing along the way so to make sure that when we do go live, it's as smooth as possible. So focusing on the SAP clone, we knew we were not an SAP shop. McKesson was an SAP shop, Fortune 5, huge system, Fortune 5 at the time, Fortune 7 now, huge system, and those technologists were not coming over with us. So we knew we had to either build that team or find a partner to become that team for the SAP solution. We knew from our timing, we did not want to go out and procure the equipment, install it into our data center, stand up these applications, and then run it. So we felt that we would go to a hosting provider and started that search. As I said, we weren't an SAP shop, so we didn't want to take chances in terms of going out and building that team of technologists. Not certain what we'd get. We had really no room for error in our timelines. And then ultimately, once we built that team, then we again had to execute. This is a subset of the matrix that we used in our final decisioning. There were a couple other vendors that are no longer reflected here. So we did look outside first as Velocity went to the top of that list. We then had to tell the story of why Velocity and why not internal. Our internal teams, and again, there's about a dozen items, so this was kind of pruned down to the ones that were differentiators between Change Healthcare's internal IT solutions and AWS, Velocity with AWS. And at the end of the day, our biggest story was they had the capability, they had the speed to deliver flawlessly, the capability to deliver flawlessly. Our teams, how many folks are with corporate systems or internal systems out there? Okay, so mainly customer revenue side? Okay. So one of the things you learn as a corporate systems guy is your stuff's critical, but revenue's first, right? And as it should be. So as we're moving all of the revenue generating systems into our solutions, either on-premise or in a cloud, that's going to take priority. So I had to deliver my timelines. I had to get the partners to help us make that happen. And so that's how we ended up here. Timeline. I said we had to stay flexible. So we started this journey, and realistically, the fuzzy front end, you lose a little bit of time from that time that deal was signed in March. I actually joined the company June 1st to lead this project. As we basically built out our requirements, both for the Oracle end state and then the decision to catch the clone because of the complexity, we started talking to hosting providers in October. So first meeting was in Nashville. Nashville is where we're based. We had the potential partners come in that first week of October, and so as we drove through that decisioning activity, made the decision to go with Velocity in December. By the time we got that MSA signed, it was the end of January, and so we started going. As we started going with the SAP clone, we realized that we were getting behind schedule on the Oracle solution. Our development environment was being stood up slower than we anticipated, and so based on what we were seeing from a speed and flexibility that AWS gave Velocity to deliver this solution, we made the decision to add Oracle to that scope. So both of our ERP solutions, Oracle and SAP, are hosted on AWS with Velocity. As we continued down that path of this implementation, we had another work stream added, scope added as well. I had a peer at the time that was working on migrating a CRM solution, a service CRM solution, from SAP to a different SaaS solution. And they realized that they didn't have the time from a runway perspective, so we added that as well. So yet again, another piece of functionality that we were able to engage Velocity and their expertise to help us catch this portion of the SAP solution. Oracle was the first go live. It went live on October 8th. So essentially about 8.5 months from when we stood up the development environment, and that was a greenfield rebuild. That went very well. Basically became our system of record for all things financial. And we continued towards the implementation of the SAP solution, which went live on January 15th. And so from the time we executed that contract to go live, that was just under 11 months, 11 and a half months. So a lot of work. And then if you look on the bottom, you'll see hypercare. We'd originally slated hypercare on the SAP launch to be a month long. And we had the war room set up with participants from McKesson, Change Healthcare, Velocity, some of our other partners from an Oracle perspective, just for any of the integrations. And we shut down that war room in 3 days because it was that smooth. And so that was really reflected the work and the quality of the work, the flexibility that the AWS solution gave us for scalability, elasticity, and then the expertise of our partners. I've made the comment many times that we made some good decisions, and we made some of those decisions early. And so one of those was clearly partnering with AWS and Velocity as the implementation partner for that. From an outcomes and lessons learned, repeating myself a little bit on sharing the vision, but this was a change management activity, and it's really easy to forget that in projects this large. We knew once we saw these work streams that we had these 3 major work streams, we had to do a team of teams. So my internal team focused on all the satellite application implementations. We had the Velocity team stand up Oracle and SAP in the cloud on AWS and did it well. One thing I like to say, I read this somewhere, like when you pronounce a word, if you don't know how to say it loud, because somebody's going to correct you. And so I use that with my team around anything, right? If we think we understand a problem, let's say it, because if we're wrong, we're going to get corrected, and if we catch that earlier than later, we're going to end up with a better solution. So that's one of the things I often repeat to my team. Back in being flexible, another thing that we said along the way was we're open to better good ideas. And that goes back to when my daughter was probably about 3. She's grown now, but I remember saying, Grayson, it's time for bed. And she would say, I have a better good idea. So my team probably gets sick of hearing that, but it really works, right? We want to listen to that, and that's how you do change management as well, right? So if you say it loud, your customer corrects you, then you come up with a better solution. Process harmonization. This is one where we could have done better. But from a timeline perspective, two companies coming together with the different solutions, we should have spent more time here making sure that in a couple of the new areas of functionality that the system gave us, that we spent more time on that harmonization, because when we did go live, from a business process perspective, some of the folks sort of reverted to their old way. And so when I look back, I'm not sure how we could have done it different in the timeline that we had, but I think it's worth, as I go into my next project, this is something we'll certainly look at. We did 3 mock cutovers to the minute for this solution. You know, the first one was very rough, the second one was kind of rough, the third one was really good. And so with that, we felt confident as we went live that we could basically take the system down on a Friday and allow the users to come in on Monday, completely standing up, again, a full SAP ECC solution with BusinessWorks, HANA for billing, those 37 satellite integrations, all the integrations for those 37 satellite systems. And I remember McKesson's CIO was like, don't get cocky, right? So the third mock was good, but proof will be in the pudding when we do it when we go live. And as I said, they let us shut down our hypercare in 3 days, and so really valuable. At the kickoff of the project, we found this slide as well, and Henry Ford quote, right? Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. And I think that stood out really well for internal, from a Change Healthcare McKesson standpoint as we were doing that migration, as well as with our partners like Velocity. Really working together is that success. I'll point out one other point. Velocity, I've been a Velocity customer at 2 companies. And it's really important to me, right? You're not with companies forever, right? We made a decision at my last company to move a HR system to a SaaS solution. And so we told Velocity that we were going to be leaving them and gave them a date, and we had to slip that date twice. And so they could have, you know, hurt us, right, monetarily, but they didn't. They handled it very professionally, which is the way you should exit any agreement with it, because you will get another opportunity if you do it professionally, and that's what happened when we left at the old company, and so that earned them a seat at the table for this one, and on this project, really good decision to use you guys. And then we think another slide or one more picture that shows what we did and how we ended up. So this is the day after go live, right? Often you're in a war room, you know, talking to the CIO, telling them what's going right, what's going wrong. But we took a step out. This was the Velocity team that was in the war room with us at Cutover, and we're, you know, had the time to joke around a little bit. And so basically kind of talks to a graphical view of how the project went. So hopefully there was something in there of value. We have a little bit of time for questions.
We do.
And so if there's any, we'd be happy to answer. And if not, I'm happy to hand out a card if anybody would want to talk more in the future as well.
We have a microphone if you'd like to ask a question of David or myself.
Just raise your hand and I'll happily bring you the mic if anybody has a question. Going once, going twice. I think you have fully informed them.
I think, was there a hand?
Oh, we do have one? No, we don't have one. Okay.
Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And have a good rest. Safe travels, everybody.
Thank you.